Welcome, fellow seekers of the shadows, to desolate echoes. Are you ready to face what watches in the pines? Because once you step inside, there's no turning back. The Whispering Pines Asylum. The air in Blackwood Valley always had a peculiar stillness to it, a heavy quiet that seemed to absorb sound rather than reflect it. But it was the silence emanating from the abandoned Whispering Pines Asylum that truly unsettled people. Perched atop a desolate hill, its skeletal silhouette a constant blight against the skyline, it had stood empty for 50 years, a monument to forgotten screams and untold tragedies. Ethan, a self-proclaimed urban explorer and a magnet for the macabre, had scoffed at the local legends. Ghosts, superstition, hauntings. Just the wind whistling through broken panes. His YouTube channel, Desolate Echoes, thrived on debunking such tales, armed with nothing but a high-definition camera, a flashlight, and an unnerving confidence. Tonight, Whispering Pines was his next conquest. He'd arrived just as twilight bled into a bruised purple, the setting sun casting long, gnarled shadows that mimicked grasping hands on the asylum's crumbling walls. A rusted iron gate, its hinges groaning like tortured souls, offered little resistance. The path beyond was overgrown, swallowed by tenacious weeds and thorny bushes, as if nature itself was trying to reclaim the scarred earth. The entrance to the main building was a gaping maw, a shattered double door hanging askew. As Ethan stepped inside, the temperature plummeted, an unnatural chill that bit at his exposed skin despite the mild late autumn evening. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth, decay, and something else, something metallic and acrid, like old blood. His flashlight beam cut through the oppressive darkness, dancing across peeling wallpaper that depicted faded, pastoral scenes, now warped and stained like diseased skin. Dust motes, disturbed by his presence, swirled in the beam, appearing like 1,000 tiny, tormented spirits. "All right, folks," Ethan murmured to his camera, his voice a little lower than usual, "we are officially inside Whispering Pines. As you can see, the rumors of it being impossible to enter are wildly exaggerated. Just good old-fashioned urban decay." He forced a confident chuckle, but it felt hollow in the vast, echoing foyer. He moved deeper, his footsteps crunching on debris, shattered glass, fallen plaster, and what looked disturbingly like fragments of old medical equipment. He found the reception area first, a dark, angular counter behind which stood a skeletal chair. A filing cabinet, overturned and rusted, spilled out yellowed documents. Ethan picked one up, brushing off the grime. It was a patient transfer form, dated 1975. The name was illegible, but the diagnosis section read, "Severe delusional paranoia, violent tendencies." A sudden, sharp sound made him jump. It was a rhythmic, scratching noise, faint but distinct, coming from somewhere deeper within the asylum. Ethan paused, holding his breath, his heart hammering against his ribs. "Just the building settling," he mumbled, more to himself than the camera. He raised his flashlight, pointing it down a long, narrow corridor to his left. "Looks like we have some interesting wings to explore." The scratching continued, a maddening, persistent rhythm, like nails dragging across a stone slab. It seemed to move, shifting from one end of the corridor to the other, then abruptly stopping. He proceeded cautiously, his boots stirring up decades of dust. The corridor was lined with doors, most of them ajar, revealing small, desolate rooms. Each contained only a rusted bed frame, some with tattered remnants of mattresses, others with nothing but the cold, bare floor. The walls in these rooms were often covered in faded, disturbing scrawls, childlike drawings of monstrous figures, desperate pleas, or endless repetitions of names. In one room, the name, Lillian, was carved repeatedly into the plaster, as if someone had spent years etching it, each letter a testament to their desperation. As Ethan shone his light on it, a cold gust of wind, though no windows were open, swept through the room, making the air prickle with an unseen presence. He shivered. Okay, this place is definitely giving off some serious vibes, he admitted, his voice a strained whisper. But still nothing paranormal, just a lot of sadness, I guess. He moved to the next room, and the scratching resumed, this time directly above him, as if something was pacing on the floor above. He looked up, his light piercing the gloom, but saw only the skeletal remains of the ceiling joists. He decided to head upstairs. The grand staircase in the foyer, once elegant, was now a precarious climb of splintered wood and loose banisters. Each step creaked ominously, a symphony of decay that seemed to mock his intrusion. The second floor was a mirror image of the first, another long corridor of patient rooms. The air here was even colder, and a faint, sweet smell, like rotten flowers, permeated everything. He found himself inexplicably drawn to a room at the very end of the hall. Unlike the others, its heavy wooden door was closed. Hesitantly, Ethan reached for the doorknob. It was cold to the touch, and when he turned it, it released with a wet, sickening click. The door swung inward, revealing a room that was different from all the rest. This room was larger, almost a small ward. In the center stood an antique wheelchair, perfectly preserved despite the surrounding decay, its wooden frame still gleaming faintly in his flashlight beam. But it wasn't the wheelchair that made him freeze. On the far wall, illuminated by his light, was a mural. It was crudely painted, but undeniably disturbing. It depicted a tall, gaunt figure with hollow eyes and a skeletal grin, surrounded by smaller, distorted faces, all screaming in silent agony. Below the mural, etched into the wall with painstaking care, was a single word, watching. As he stared at the mural, the faint, sweet smell intensified, and he realized with a jolt that it wasn't rotten flowers. It was the sickeningly sweet scent of formaldehyde, mingling with something else, something indescribably foul, like putrid meat. A low, guttural moan echoed from behind him, sending a jolt of pure terror through his spine. He spun around, camera still rolling, flashlight beam wildly scanning the room. Nothing. Only the empty space where he had entered. "Hello?" he called out, his voice cracking. "Is anyone here?" No answer, just the profound, heavy silence of the asylum, broken only by the frantic pounding of his own heart. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that he was not alone. He backed out of the room slowly, his eyes fixed on the mural, the word "watching" burning itself into his mind. As he stepped into the hallway, the closed door of the mural room creaked shut behind him with a soft thud. Panic began to set in. This wasn't just old building noises. This was something else. He scrambled back down the hallway, the scratching sound now seemingly emanating from everywhere at once, a cacophony of scraping and dragging that filled his ears. He burst onto the main staircase, taking the steps 2 at a time. Halfway down, a shadow detached itself from the wall directly in front of him. It was tall, impossibly thin, and seemed to flicker at the edges. It didn't have distinct features, just a darker void within the already pervasive darkness. Ethan stumbled, his foot catching on a loose step, and he tumbled down the remaining stairs, landing hard on the dust-covered floor of the foyer. His camera flew from his hand, skidding across the polished marble, its lens cracking. The flashlight, still clutched in his hand, flickered wildly, then died. Absolute darkness enveloped him. The scratching sounds intensified, closer now, seeming to surround him. He could hear faint, shallow breathing, not his own, coming from somewhere directly above him. The sweet, putrid smell was overwhelming. He scrambled backward on his hands and knees, desperate to find an exit, his fingers brushing against something slick and cold on the floor. He gagged, recoiling instantly. It felt like fluid. A whisper slithered into his ear, so close he felt breath on his skin, a voice like dry leaves skittering across concrete. "You shouldn't have come here, Ethan." It knew his name. Terror, raw and primal, consumed him. He lunged forward, blindly crashing into what he hoped was the main door. He pushed, he pulled, he hammered against it, but it wouldn't budge. The rust-eaten hinges that had given way so easily before now held firm, as if welded shut. The whispers grew louder, merging into a chorus of frantic, desperate pleas, mixed with chilling, childlike giggles. He felt cold, unseen hands brush against his face, his hair, his arms. He screamed, a guttural sound that was immediately swallowed by the suffocating silence of the asylum. He felt a sharp, searing pain on his leg, then another on his arm. It felt like needles piercing his skin, then a spreading coldness. He thrashed, trying to fight off the invisible assailants, but they were everywhere, overwhelming him. A laugh, high-pitched and maniacal, echoed through the foyer, then another, and another, until the whole asylum seemed to reverberate with the joyful, terrifying mirth of unseen entities. Ethan collapsed, his strength drained, the strange coldness spreading rapidly through his limbs. The whispers morphed into a single, collective voice, now clearer, more defined, and filled with a chilling, possessive hunger. "Join us, Ethan. Forever." The last thing he saw, before the darkness fully consumed him, was a faint, distorted reflection in the shattered screen of his camera, lying discarded on the floor. It wasn't his face looking back. It was a gaunt, hollow-eyed visage, its mouth stretched into a skeletal grin, the same grin from the mural upstairs. And behind it, countless other distorted faces, pressing in, all watching. All waiting. The morning sun, when it finally pierced the perpetual gloom of Blackwood Valley, cast its golden rays upon the Whispering Pines Asylum. Its silhouette, now sharp and defined against the clear sky, seemed to hold a new, unsettling stillness. Days later, concerned friends and family, alerted by Ethan's absence, arrived at the asylum. They found the rusted iron gate still ajar. They found the shattered double door of the main building still hanging askew. Inside, the air was still, heavy with the scent of damp earth and decay. Dust motes danced in the sparse sunlight that streamed through broken windows. The patient transfer form, dated 1975, lay undisturbed on the floor of the reception area. The mural in the large room upstairs, depicting the gaunt figure with the skeletal grin, remained on the wall. And carved beneath it, the single word, watching. There was no sign of Ethan. Only the faint, almost imperceptible, scratching sound, like nails dragging across a stone slab, echoing softly from somewhere deep within the silent halls of Whispering Pines. And occasionally, carried on the wind, a faint, high-pitched giggle that seemed to drift from the asylum's shattered windows, mingling with the peculiar stillness of Blackwood Valley. The asylum had claimed another. And it continued to watch. The end. If Ethan's horrifying experience has sent shivers down your spine, don't just keep it to yourself. Like this video to help us spread these unsettling tales. Share it with someone you know who loves a good fright. And most importantly, comment below with your theories on what truly happened to Ethan, or share your own chilling encounters with the unknown. Every like, share, and comment helps us shine a light into the darkest corners. Until our next dive into the desolate echoes, stay vigilant, and never explore alone.